114 Rafales will be by far the biggest
defense deal India has ever signed.
In the wake of Operation Sindoor, the Indian Navy sort of hurried into a decision and got its 26 aircraft deal signed.
Huge decision.
But the NDTV network broke it before everyone else. And it became the story of the day, Vishnu. Hello and welcome to episode number 25 of Ctrl Alt Defense. It's so good to see you back here. Vishnu, we missed another episode.
Yeah, we did. Bad on us.
After promising our viewers and listeners
that we'll never miss one.
That we pledged never to miss another episode. So I'm mortified. I'm really embarrassed. I'm apologetic. And we should be ashamed of ourselves, Vishnu.
No, but you see, the thing is, our viewers need to understand that there is something called leave when we travel. We aren't here working every day. We actually mostly are. But on the odd occasion, we might even have to travel for work. And then if Shiv and I aren't there together,
so I'm going
then
to
it
just throw
becomes a
Vishnu
problem.
under the bus and say, I was working. Vishnu went off on holiday, by the way. So this is not on me this time. He went off on holiday. I had no choice. I was here totally willing to do the podcast. You know me. I'm like working for you guys all the time. I don't take holidays also. As you know, Vishnu does. So this one's on Vishnu. So advance apologies.
You need to take holidays, man. It's not a bad idea.
On episode 25, on Vishnu's behalf, I apologize to all the...
We've had fights on this holiday business.
On this viewers of Ctrl Alt Defense.
Right.
But yes, now the important thing, Vishnu, is now that we're back.
Yeah.
We've got incredible things to talk about. And might I just say that Vishnu's a real hero on that last episode, Vishnu. Have you seen the comments on the last episode? You're like a god.
Really?
You're like a Vishnu knows so much about missiles. No, it's true. I think if you guys go back to the last episode which we did on air-to-air missiles, it's one of our best. I think it was an in-depth view of something that very few people know very much about or actually talk about. And I enjoyed it a lot. So go and check it out before you start this one if you can. Absolutely brilliant. And it's something that I think we'll probably need to revisit soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Based on the offline conversations that you and I have been having Vishnu.
Very offline.
But today's episode is a very fun one. We hadn't even planned it. Like most of our episodes, Vishnu and I do start planning them in advance. And then something happens that kind of derails the entire plan, right? That's how Ctrl Alt Defense works. And we know that our viewers and listeners don't mind. It was a picture, and we'll put that picture up right now, which is a picture which is very innocuous to the untrained eye. But I happened to spot it, which is why the NDTV network broke it before everyone else. And it became the story of the day, Vishnu.
Yeah.
A nice photograph of a beaming President Draupadi Murmu at the Ambala Air Base.
Yeah.
And standing right next to her, also beaming with a toothy grin, was none other than Squadron leader Shivangi Singh.
Yeah.
Woman fighter pilot.
Rafale pilot.
From the Golden Arrow Squadron. And the lady pilot who the Pakistan media and Al Jazeera and the entire Pakistani internet.
Al Jazeera also?
Yeah, Al Jazeera. Kamal Haider said it in his report, which I rebutted when I was in Kashmir, by the way, saying that a woman pilot has been captured and these were the pictures that were put out at that time, etc. So incredible that 6 months after Operation Sindoor, this picture comes out. And what I love about it is that it wasn't a press release. It's not like the Air Force said, oh guys, by the way, we'll be showing Shivangi Singh at this event. Nobody said anything. It was the last photo in a set of 4 photos quietly tweeted by the Rashtrapati Bhavan. With no caption, no indication that is Shivangi. Probably only you and I would have been able to tell that was Shivangi at all, which is why NDTV broke the story. But what did you think of that, Vishnu?
This was the second time they did it in the last couple of weeks. The first occasion was when she became a qualified flight instructor. And, there was a photo of hers which appeared, which I picked up on and said, hello, that's Shivangi right there. So here's a woman who's been shot down by the Pakistanis, taken prisoner of war by the Pakistanis, potentially tortured by the Pakistanis, and evidently has superhuman powers to actually come back to India, pick up her qualified flight instructor status, sort of be pinned for that, and then, come back to Ambala and then help the president kit out and then be photographed with the president as well. I mean, superhuman.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, what an honor and what a privilege to, of course, be there. But I can't imagine
the fakery, Shiv, I think, is the point over here. Lest anybody believe what I just said. The fakery of what we've seen on Pakistani social media and their media in some, it's ludicrous. I mean, there has to be an iota, a modicum of something which may or may not have happened. This never did. It's ridiculous. And yet they persisted. And you did a show, 2 days back, right? Where somebody said that this gentleman has pictures of her in captivity. Hello?
I dared him to show the pictures and he said, "Nahi, it's a national secret." So, Major Nadeem, as he...
Can I just jump in over here? I think the Pakistanis have really gotten ahead of themselves with this entire issue of the number of fighter planes they shot down.
Yeah.
And we've said this about a dozen times on our podcasts. They came to the ceasefire table. Number one. Number two, I mean, there is indisputable evidence of the destruction of hangars, of surface-to-air missile systems, of radars, of their runways, of underground bunkers. Yeah. I mean, when you have near peers, there is the possibility of losses taking place in the air. But at the end of the day, if you've got any number of hits on there, and how many pictures do the Pakistanis have for their claimed hits?
Of nothing.
On our bases, which
nothing.
have apparently demolished the Indian Air Force? Zero.
Yeah.
ZERO. Right?
Yeah.
And for a country which is very quote-unquote advanced when it comes to the management of information associated with warfare.
And they've got access to Chinese satellites.
Yeah. They didn't manage anything. So, this is just bizarre. And they persist. And these are all trolls. Most of these are just handles without any person associated with it. Very often the language appears very similar between one and the other.
The beautiful thing about Pakistan is it's very difficult, and I don't mean this in a flippant, disrespectful way, but it's actually true of Pakistan if you look at it, that it's very difficult to distinguish between the social media armies, their ministers, their government, their institutions, etc. They all speak in a kind of very similar kind of language. You had their defense minister says, I got this information from social media. That's remember what he said about
the secretary was the guy typing it up.
Yeah, so it's with all due respect, it's a failed state and it behaves like one. So and I have to make an admission here, Vishnu, which is that I'm frankly so bored reminding the world about the fact that Operation Sindoor was not a two-way affair. It was a by and large a one-way affair, and I also want to take a moment to commend the Indian Air Force on this. Not once have they rebutted Pakistan. Not once have they issued a rejoinder. When this picture of Shivangi was put out and I tweeted it, the Pakistanis said, "Oh, why have you tweeted it now 6 months later? Why is this picture coming out now? Where has she been for 6 months? Oh, she was in captivity for 6 months. She's been returned now. She was injured after her ejection. Now she's okay. That's why you brought her up." And I was, obviously I don't reply. Sometimes I do, of course. But this time I was like, it's beautiful how the Indian Air Force hasn't even bothered to engage. It has not even bothered to issue rejoinders, rebuttals, counter psyops, nothing. They just casually brought her to the Ambala base where she's based anyway.
Yeah.
And had her pose for this picture, which I think demonstrates a fabulous kind of blasé psyops as far as the Indian Air Force is concerned.
In fact, I asked them.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do as journalists. We keep asking them, this is what they're saying. Will you react to this? No, there's no point.
Yeah.
But why not? It's like, why get into that wormhole? I mean, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Because one thing leads to another. It just feeds into some sort of social media narrative which these people like to create. And, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
The Indian Air Force isn't in doubt about anything.
Yeah.
They've been very frank about the fact that there have been losses which have taken place. They've been frank about a lot of things, about, the actual conduct. India has not denied that there have been attacks which have taken place.
Yeah.
We have seen people who've been injured, people who've lost their lives in Kashmir when you were reporting, civilians who got hit as well, schools which were destroyed, your reports which I remember seeing. There's no denying any of that. What's there to deny?
Right.
But to make ludicrous claims is something completely different. But that's them. We're talking about Rafale as well, right?
We're talking about the Rafale. I absolutely. You know, the Shivangi photographs is a way for us to get into a Rafale episode once again. And there's a good reason for it because, Vishnu, frankly, the president could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
The president could have gone anywhere and visited any base, but a choice was made to send her to the Ambala base and to fly a Rafale.
Yeah.
And the Rafale has been this kind of emotive focal point of we shot down this many aircraft and you know the Rafale is useless and we rendered
How
it
many
useless.
Rafales did they say
So
they
a choice
shot down?
was made. A choice was made to send for her to go.
Because
to
at one
Rafale.
stage, I think they shot down all of them.
36 gone.
Gone. No, I know. But look, she's not flown on it before. She's done a sortie in Tezpur on a Sukhoi 30. This is a platform which has had a huge role. And I dare say there'll be a lot more information emerging about the role of the Rafale in the future. But be that as it may, this is an aircraft with a stellar weapons control system, an incredible man-machine interface. It's got a weapon called the Scalp, which is done brilliantly well. It's a cruise missile, flies out to 400 odd kilometers, strikes targets with precision. When India went into Op Sindoor, we used a range of air-to-surface missiles. We used the Rampage, we used the BrahMos, we used the Scalp, we used the Crystal Maze quite likely. And all of these came together and they all performed flawlessly. In as much as we talk about, and this is just a small digression because, you know, it's stuff which I'm hearing. I mean, it's common sense. It's not as easy to use these smart weapons as everybody thinks. You really need to program them perfectly. You need to train on them perfectly. You need to simulate conditions. You need to get to an optimal launch point and in a very small launch window, be able to launch the weapon. Otherwise, the weapon in most cases will not fire because it's designed in a way that if you're missing your target, then you know there are warnings and things. You don't just drop a 2-3 million euro weapon for the sake of dropping it. But be that as it may, you know, it takes some doing. It's not easy to fire these weapons. But the point is the Rafale comes integrated with the Scalp for sure. There's also the Hammer, which has got less of a range. The Rafale is integrated with that, as I understand it. And other weapon systems as well. But the Rafale is just incredible because it is entirely contemporary. And the fact that you very easily move between roles. You know, these are all multi-role fighters. I dare say the ability to switch from air to ground to air is just instantaneous almost on the Rafale. It has a lot to do with its AESA radar, active electronically scanned phased array radar, which technically can track targets on the air and on the ground simultaneously, which, you know, enables you, if you are trying to hit or potentially hit targets in the air at the same time, should a target
Which
emerge,
is what they were doing.
Yeah, then you know you could seamlessly sort of engage that as well. The Air Force isn't silly in wanting more Rafales. You know, we've spoken about why the stealth threat that India faces and the question on whether the Rafale is good enough. Under the circumstances, there is no other platform. And if you've got your Air Force saying that, no, we absolutely insist on the Rafale, we need this for 114 more of them, it's because A, it's reliable, B, the weapon system is very good, C, it offers flexibility with weapons. More Meteor missiles, and we'll talk about that separately, will be coming in. That's an air-to-air missile. You've trained on it. You've got India-specific upgrades, you know, which are very important. You've got facilities on the ground. These are as important, right? You've got hardened shelters catered for the Rafale aircraft as well. You've got training facilities, simulators, the whole shebang. Why on earth would you want to necessarily get another platform? Other than a stealth platform, but that's a separate argument. And as we've discussed, and I would invite our viewers to see that episode on stealth planes, that, you know, we don't really have much of a good option right now.
So you know, I wanted to dig a little deeper into that point that you're making about, you know, Operation Sindoor, the Rafale's performance there, you know, being a validation, being an affirmation that basically says, you know, stop wasting time comparing more aircraft right now. You've got a fantastic platform. God knows you've put a lot of money into those enhancements and building up your infrastructure. So why not simply get more? We know that in the wake of Operation Sindoor, the Indian Navy sort of bolstered, hurried into a decision and got its 26 aircraft deal signed.
A huge decision.
Very big one. And now the file for 114 Rafales, which was otherwise going to be a kind of competitive process. Very much like the legendary MMRCA.
Quagmire.
It seems like sense has prevailed, and it seems like the Air Force has said, look, we don't have time to waste. We don't have time to play around.
But it's not moving fast enough. And there's good reason. You know, if you're spending billions and billions,
Shiv, but some of those are going to be built here in India, I'm assuming,
so that's
right?
the problem.
We did an episode on that, remember? The Tatas are going to build them here.
But that's just the point. What is the percentage of manufacture in India? Some reports suggest that Dassault at the moment is willing to offer a suboptimal percentage of manufacture in India. Somebody said it's 10% or so, I don't know the number. As far as India is concerned, Atmanirbharta means we need about 50% or perhaps more. And that can be a bit of a negotiation. But, I mean, if it's 10%, then, you know, we may as well buy it off the shelf, which is what this government doesn't want to do. 114 Rafale aircraft would be the biggest order of Rafale aircraft in one sort of deal that India has done. I'm not sure whether the French even ordered that many aircraft in one deal.
Not in a single deal.
In a single deal. So, add to that the 26 that we've ordered for the Indian Navy, very similar, the two. You know, it's something that we would want more Atmanirbharta in. So that's where negotiations are, and I dare say it might be stuck.
Are the French in a position to really insist on something as ridiculous as 10%? Because we've seen real projects collapse under the weight of work share disagreements in the past.
The original MMRCA deal collapsed precisely because of it. Because of the inability of, or the perceived inability of Hindustan Aeronautics to manufacture the Rafale in India. And where Dassault put its foot down and they said that Dassault cannot certify the quality of manufacture of Rafale fighters in India by HAL, for right or for wrong. And they stuck to their guns to the extent that entire deal process never progressed. And ultimately, we saw what happened. And then, you know, I mean, we went in for a direct purchase of 36, but shortly after which there was that entire controversy on whether the deal itself was corrupt. And the Supreme Court came and said that no, there was nothing corrupt about the deal. That's a side story. But as far as this is concerned, we need to have a larger amount. And they are tying up with the Tatas. They do want to manufacture a large part, you know, in India. We'll have to see how that plays out. I mean, are we talking about aerostructures? That is my sense that that's what India expects to be done. Because that entire offsets business, at the best of times, is very difficult to realize. We want profound technology transfer. And I think there is a link to Safran as well, the French engine manufacturer. They manufacture the M88 engine for the Rafale as well. And in as much as we are working with General Electric, I think for AMCA, that's India's stealth platform, and other platforms, we might be looking at a deeper engine, technology sharing deal. The Rafale comes with the Safran engine, a fantastic engine. My God, thrust weight, the overall power reliability.
Monster.
So that sort of works well as well to get the Rafale. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, no, you're right, because I'm hearing exactly what you're saying, Vishnu, that the file isn't moving fast enough. There are obviously priority and some budget issues as well. There are certain other things that need to be dealt with the French. My sense is also that given the size of this deal, which is presumably normal in the case, that the Indian government is also looking to leverage a little bit more from the French at this point of time, because we're putting a lot of eggs in one basket for this. There's the engine, there's 114 Rafales. So, this cannot end up like the earlier purchases, because hopefully this is going to be one of the last sort of big imports of combat aircraft technology that India looks at.
And the last
but with the Tatas, so with the Tatas involved, would that be qualitatively different from HAL? Because the Tatas are not newbies anymore when it comes to aircraft tech, not only with aerostructures, but they're doing the C295 as well.
Yeah.
Of course, a fighter aircraft is a completely different kettle of fish, but there must be some degree of confidence that Dassault and the French government would get having signed this deal of manufacture with the Tatas.
So that's an incredibly controversial theme, because if you go and ask Hindustan Aeronautics, there would be many over there who would say that who said we can't manufacture the Rafale? If we are building the LCA, if we've got so much experience in carbon composites, etc., if we are building our own stealth platform, then who told you that we can't build it? So that was part of the original sort of debate, as it were. But I think for the Indian Air Force, it hardly matters where in India it's manufactured, as long as the manufacturer itself is certified. That Dassault certifies it and says that the product that we are handing over to you is valid, it's of the standard that you seek, and you're welcome to test it for the quality that you seek, because every jet costs upwards of 92, 93 million euros. I mean, that's what the old ones were costing. There is a cost of escalation. There is a certain baseline advantage that India might have because, we've invested in the configuration of Rafale that we want.
Yeah.
So we've got so some of the technologies we've already paid for. So going forward, it may not be as much as it potentially could be, but it's too early to figure out what the cost per piece would be. And, it's never per piece. It's
So, now let's come to these 114 Rafales,
Yeah.
the potential deal that's on the table that India will sign. The circumstances are different, Vishnu, because you've just had combat. You've used your Rafales for the first time in anger. I cannot imagine as a civilian what level of learnings there must be on the aircraft. I mean, we know how the two Rafale squadrons were already learning a great deal just from active deployment, but using them in actual kinetic operations, completely a different thing, right? So this huge, vast canvas of learnings and information and lessons, etc., that must be having some kind of a bearing in tactics and threat libraries and things like that. Does that mean that these 114 Rafales that we potentially order now from the French will involve more enhancements? Could India be looking at even more enhancements, saying that, look, we've used them in combat and these are the things that didn't quite suit us and we'd like to tweak them a little bit more?
Well, everything is more or less worked out. We didn't have any active Meteor air-to-air missile launches for whatever the reasons were.
Which we've discussed in the last episode.
Yeah. Maneuvering to get that missile, it's something which I'm sure the Indian Air Force would have liked. But there's the F5 version. India is very, very keen about, upgrades and India-specific enhancements to a standard that we want. For example, and we were discussing this recently, the helmet-mounted sight that display that we operate on the Rafale is Israeli. The French don't operate that. It's different. We've tuned the engine to a certain ability to operate in very high altitudes, Leh and other places as well. There are other enhancements, in the navigation system and a lot of other things. There's an active jammer as well, a towed array decoy, I beg your pardon, which is also part of the deal. So going forward, we would want more integration. We would want perhaps a better capability of the Rafale's RBE2 radar, which is, its primary sensor. We would seek upgraded threat libraries on the spectrum. We really need to talk about the spectra. That's just a piece of art. That's the world's most sophisticated electronic suite, 4th generation, 5th generation, 6th generation of any aircraft in the world. And I can tell you that was working flawlessly during Op Sindoor, from what I'm told. In an area, during very active air combat on the 7th night, possibly on the 9th night, 10th morning, that spectra was critical for the defense of the Rafale fleet. The fact that it can actively jam across various frequencies, incoming air-to-air missiles, it alerts pilots to the threats, it automatically results in the flare dispensers and the shaft dispensers going off. And the fact that it's got a very large area of coverage. And it's linked to this incredible digital threat, library, which we want to enhance now, makes it one of the most critical components. The other aircraft, of course, which does this beautifully is the Gripen E. The Swedes really pride themselves. I love that aircraft, but that's perhaps for another episode. But we certainly want the Rafale, up to a particular standard. It needs to stay relevant. Now, there's a bit of a concern about the Rafale, and that has to do with the size of its nose cone. The nose cone of the Rafale is not the largest, and therefore the AESA radar inside can only have that many TR, transmit receive modules. So a Sukhoi 30 would always have way more transmit receive modules if it was to get an AESA radar, which it will. It's just a matter of time. You can counter this with the reliability of the unit, with advanced software, this, that, and the other. One more key point, and I forgot to mention this. if France thinks that they're going to get a Rafale deal for 114 aircraft from India without having India integrate whichever weapon of ours that we want integrated.
That was going to be my next question.
Then
right.
they can go
take a hike.
Take a hike. It ain't happening. Rafale or no Rafale, godlike aircraft, and why should that not be the case? You know, we are working on an even smaller version of the BrahMos missile. Why shouldn't we integrate that? We want the Astra 2. We want the Astra 3. If the Astra 2 or the Astra 3 eventually, which would potentially be a hypersonic air-to-air missile, it may not even be called Astra, is something which gives you the ranges at 300 kilometers plus, then it outdoes the Meteor missile through and through. Then, of course, there's a French lobby, MBDA, which makes the great Meteor missile, saying that, no, that ain't happening, my friends. You have to, we'll give you a better Meteor, but we'll integrate it. And that's not, we have the Rudram series of missiles, that works for us, and so many others. So why shouldn't we integrate our own? So that is something that India needs to negotiate. Now, that's going to be a hard driver. The French will say, yeah, fine, we'll do it for you. We won't give you access to the codes of our mission computers and our flight control system and the other aspects of software. We'll do it for you, and here's the bill. What India would ultimately want is access to those codes, which is entirely and incredibly sensitive, to be able to, integrate stuff when we want it as more weapons come along. Because there'll be more weapons which come along. You go to the French and say, we want this to be integrated. They'll say, yeah, no problem. Here's the bill.
Yeah.
Now, here's where Tejas is brilliant, right?
We don't have to run to anyone.
We don't run to anybody. There's no paperwork. There's no paperwork.
No, that's the baseline of what owning your own aircraft and developing your own aircraft basically means. You don't have to keep running to anyone, to plug some new system in or maintain some new system or get a new piece of code, which is precisely what intellectual property on sophisticated systems like the Rafale are really about. But I wanted to go a little deeper into the weapons part, because I think it goes without saying, Vishnu, that with 114 Rafales, the 36 Rafales was a prohibitively expensive deal.
7.8 billion euros.
Yeah, 114 Rafales will be by far the biggest
defense deal India has ever signed.
Biggest procurement.
Most countries
I'm saying
would have
biggest
signed.
is inadequate because it would be many multiples what comes before it. So it's like huge, enormous, right? So it only stands to reason that India would insist on certain Indian systems, definitely the ability to integrate whatever weapon India wants to do. We've seen these kinds of frictions when it comes to the ASRAM, when it comes to the Meteor on the Tejas. Even, might I say, if we move away from aircraft to things like the air-independent propulsion plugs for the Scorpion submarines, which also happen to be French, by the way. There are all these aspects where the supplier is not very comfortable with you getting too self-reliant with your things. But then the sheer size of the deal means you have the muscle to push it, right?
So that's the balance.
Yeah. So
they want to earn more, and we want to integrate more.
Correct. So that
that
cycle has to be broken, and this is an opportunity for it to happen. So I'm asking, do you think India has the muscle to push that through, the ability to actually get that kind of intellectual property? Because you said those codes, those valuable, priceless codes that nobody parts with, because that's that one umbilical cord between supplier and customer where you've still got them by the dash,
by the necks.
Yeah, by the necks. Yes. Do you think 114 Rafale fighters will sort of break that cord?
If this is the last major order of Rafale aircraft anywhere in the world, right? And by which I mean the size of the order, and that might well be the case. You may not have orders for the Rafale at this number, and with the French now moving on to their 5th/6th
FCAS and things.
The next generation of fighter aircraft, then why would the French not be willing to do that? It would be the prudent thing to do.
Yeah, like they were with the Mirage at one point of time.
It's
not the same thing.
They got very angry with us with what we did with the Mirage. Yeah. We integrated the Russian R-73 missile with the Mirage 2000. Yeah. We integrated Israeli weapons with the Mirage 2000. One of the problems which the Israelis earlier, the Europeans earlier had with integrating the Meteor missile with the Tejas is that it has an Israeli radar, an Elta 2032 on the Mark 1 and an Elta 2052 on the. But the scoop I got out of the HAL chief was that the second batch of Tejas Mark 1A will have the Meteor, and that's because the radar is ours. So interesting dynamics. France and Israel have a defense sort of equation, a very deep one, but they don't want to integrate the Meteor missile with an Israeli radar. So there are wheels within wheels within wheels on IPR and confidentiality and data sharing and all of that. Think about that. That's interesting. They don't want the Israelis anywhere close.
Because they feel it will give them an edge technologically in terms of a gateway into their systems and being able to replicate. There are all these fears.
And Israel sells us air-to-air missiles as well. So MBDA probably thinks that if we give the codes to integrate the Meteor to the Tejas's Israeli radar, then how does that? It'll end up benefiting the Israelis, who in any case are selling air-to-air missiles to India.
Is there a case then to be made, Vishnu? It's not the same as the Mirage. I get it. The Mirage had been in service for a long time before that offer was made, and the French government was quite angry with India for sort of delaying it beyond a point of no return, and then it became the MMRCA, which is then a very sad kind of saga. But is there a case to be made for the Rafale's entire manufacturing to simply be shifted to India? If this is going to be the last big substantive order, I presume there might be a few more export orders.
Indonesia.
Why not sweeten it by saying, we'll shut everything down here, we move the whole damn thing to India? So who's going to order anything close to 114 aircraft?
So others have been willing to do it. Now, when there were no real negotiations, but America was interested in deep tech transfer for the F-16 to India, the F-21 as they called it. I think the Swedish would have agreed also to something substantial. But the fact is that of late, the Rafale, and it's been a late starter when it comes to sales abroad. Of late, they've done tremendously well. All sorts of countries, Indonesia being the latest one, which is the UAE, Qatar, have gotten orders. Croatia, Greece, Egypt. So it's really doing well in terms of sales of aircraft. So they still want that hold for the moment. But I don't think we'll ever get 100% manufacture in India of the Rafale, because a lot of the Rafale's technology, right, would be going into their future air combat system as well, FCAS or whatever it is. So they might want to retain some of the core technologies themselves, build it. And ultimately it's a question of jobs as well. It's not just profitability of companies, assuming that the cost of manufacture in India might be lower over a period of time, not initially. They would certainly want, there'd be problems across Europe. That if all manufacture of these sensitive items is done in India, then that doesn't necessarily work for people working there.
I saw as we come towards the end of this episode, I think it was in 2017 when I'd gone for the Paris Air Show, and I'd attended this. I'd gone to the Landivisiau Rafale base in the northwestern part of France. And there was this presentation that the Dassault people were making that I was privy to, and I remember seeing a very interesting slide about India where they had Ambala, they had Hashimara, and they had Gwalior as the three blinking dots, the Rafale triangle in India. And Gwalior is, as you know better than anyone, Vishnu, is
Mirage 2000.
The capital city of the Mirage 2000, right? So the overall plan apparently is, at that time the plan was 126 Rafales, right? So it was going to be a couple of squadrons in each of these places. So now we've only got 2 squadrons, one in Hashimara in Bengal and the other in Ambala in Haryana. But with these 114 coming in, apparently the plan is that Gwalior will be that third location in central India.
Quite possibly.
Interestingly, and I checked this, that the ground level infrastructure that's been built for the Rafale has been done already in Gwalior. So it's there in Hashimara, it's there in Ambala, and it is there in Gwalior because that had already been baked into the original plan. So when India finally scaled down its order from 126 to 36, that was still there, where Dassault said, no, we'll still put up that infrastructure. So it looks like Gwalior, the legacy of French aircraft at Gwalior could continue.
Absolutely. But as we start concluding this, I just think there's another important point that we need to make, and repeatedly. When India fights air combat with Pakistan or potentially with China in the future, it's not going to be a 10-0 sweep for India.
Yeah.
Never. The Pakistan Air Force, extremely capable. The platforms that they have, the missiles that they operate, we've spoken about the PL-15 missile, the J-10 missile, the PL-15 missile, the J-10 aircraft, the JF-17 Thunder, various versions of that, even the F-16s, which they continue to operate. And then, of course, a range of Chinese aircraft, right, over and above the ones that I just mentioned, will mean that if you've got 2 modern air forces or 3 modern air forces engaged in combat, you will take losses. It is important for people watching this podcast
to digest that.
To please digest this. There will be occasions when 100 million euro Rafales go down. I mean, that's if we buy more planes, it might cost that much, it might cost more. Otherwise, it's 92 million euros at the moment, right? These will go down. Not one, you'll end up losing many of them. Because the surface-to-air missile threat, which presently exists, is as real as the air-to-air threat. If anything, it is more than the air-to-air threat. We've seen that with the S-400 system. So when one talks about 114 aircraft and the whopping costs which that's going to come with, please understand that in the case of conflict with Pakistan or with China, you're going to lose any number of aircraft, as will they. As will they. And then we can decide who's going to win later on, and obviously that's going to be on whatever takes place in any combat. And we need to sensitize our viewers to this, that losses are a part of combat. It's not they are used to watching Israel go after Iran. The Iranian Air Force is a Maruti 800 compared to a Lamborghini. If you compare Israel and Iran. Or the Gulf Wars, where the United States took on Iraq.
You make an important point, and might I just say that over all of the episodes we've done post Sindoor, I think this is the only podcast for sure, and any show really, that has looked at this in a very sober way. There's a lot of chest thumping. There's a lot of overt exaggeration as to what has happened. We look at this as warfare. We look at this as combat and operations, and combat and operations is seldom, comic book clarity. There are terrible gray areas. The business of warfare is a difficult business, and that's what you'll get here on Control All Defense. Take it or leave it, and from the numbers we're seeing, it's most of you do take it, which is always nice to see. But Vishnu, we shall end this here. I did want to talk about a couple of other things, but I think we'll leave it for another day, because HAL has signed up with the Russia to build passenger jets at some point in the future. It's an MOU, the SJ-100, the Superjet,
which is Western engines.
You want to just quickly put some comments in, but I want to do a full show on that later, so don't say too much.
No, with Western engines, it would be quite interesting. It's meant to fulfill an Indian requirement, our Udan scheme for a short-range commuter that would be broadly in the class of the Airbus A220 or in the class of the Embraer E195. Would airlines in India want it? I mean, who are they building it for? For Alliance Air? Okay. How many would Alliance Air? Because I can assure you, Indigo is an out-and-out Airbus airline. Right? Everything they operate is Airbus. It's one of the largest airlines in the world. Boeing is providing planes to Air India and to Akasa, as is Airbus to Air India. So then who's going to buy Sukhoi Superjets?
It's just amazing. Every time you think, India is a dead economy and other preposterous things that certain world leaders say, all you need to do is look at the order books of Indian airline companies. Like, who buys aircraft like this? They buy them like biscuits. 226 737 MAX, 500 Airbus.
And then you get into fights with the manufacturer. Okay, where is it?
Yes.
It hasn't come as yet.
Incredible. Who buys jets at those numbers is incredible. But yeah, I think the passenger jet business is something that we need to talk about, even though it's not really centrally in the domain of Control All Defense. It's something that Vishnu knows a heck of a lot about. So I'm going to draw him in, his expertise in on that a little bit. Vishnu, just a reminder for our viewers that a little over a month from now, who's going to be in India? Vladimir Putin.
Right.
And when he's here, you know what that means.
We'll have Su-57 or S-400 or both.
Oh man, it's going to be an Indo-Russian November here. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking about all those things. Some of the things we like, some of the things we don't agree with at all. Vishnu and I have differed on the Su-57. I'm guessing we'll have to revisit it a little bit this month. But this
Russians will be pushing hard.
Russians are going to be pushing hard, and with Putin coming here, I can't imagine what it's going to be like. Should we invite him for a podcast?
We can invite him.
Should we put in a request?
Of course, absolutely.
Like, how far will we be able to sit from Putin if we do a podcast?
So I've interviewed him in the Kremlin for 45 minutes in 2002.
I've seen that.
And we were seated at about this distance.
Oh, nice.
And
nice.
when he looks at
innocent times.
Yeah, very innocent. when it happened at 2 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, and before that I got jumpy. I went all the way to Moscow. I was told you're interviewing Putin, and so his KGB people all around him. If Vladimir Putin says he's coming for an interview, then he is coming for an interview. So we waited till 2 a.m. He showed up. But you ask him a question, he answers, and he looks you straight in the eye. And, you're a bit scary over there, So you need to... I was very young, but he is an intimidating person.
Yeah. No, look, Control All Defense can never be faulted for, aiming for the stars. So on our end, we will put in a request and say we want to interview Vladimir Putin on all things defense. Let's see how that works out.
Still have to do a Arihant request.
We've got this is the last episode of our producer Anviti Singh. She's leaving us for ridiculous reasons, but that's a different thing altogether. So we wish her the very best on her onward journey, and maybe she'll come back very, very soon. But she's just reminded us a very important thing, that we've put in a request for a ride and coverage inside a nuclear submarine. So if that happens, she's agreed to come back and work with us once again. So until that happens, thank you so much for watching. Vishnu, thanks so much. This has been a lot of fun. See you. Have a great week.
Goodbye.